Wow, what a fucking week so far. What's going on, guys? I have a decent amount to talk about in this video. I'm gonna pretty much just get right into it. But, we are on the verge of seeing macro breaks across the board, market wide. I'm sure there's some exceptions, but generally speaking, most of the market is ready to fucking move up in a big way. And that's pretty much it. I'm not going to really talk too much in the intro. I have a lot of charts to go over. So we'll start with SPY, which has continued climbing to the upside. New local high today, 458 and change. The high of day today actually is pretty much to the penny the symmetrical landmark top that we were looking for. Now, I mentioned that I didn't expect it to come up this high, as all of the landmarks on the right side have been slightly lower than the left over here. But today, we actually came up to this trend, running across in blue, which the symmetrical landmark is this double top right here. We touched this trend today, 458 and change, and rejected off it pretty hard. Came all the way down to 454. There's a few ways this can play out. And, for now, I'm just going to assume that the symmetry continues to play out. That's the safest bet, as it hasn't missed yet. I was thinking about entering puts on SPY today, and then I was like, you know what, fuck it. I'm not even going to do that. Hindsight 2020, probably should have at 458. But it's all right. There's a couple ways this can play out. And we'll start with, the likely scenario here where the symmetry continues to play out and SPY pulls back to retest the descending broadening wedge here from 460. That retest would take us somewhere to high 430 range and then potentially touching 420 to check off the final symmetrical landmark to the downside for SPY before we see all-time highs. The other scenario is we just continue to move up, and that would be pretty apparent. It would probably be a gap up sometime this week, potentially even tomorrow. I'm not saying that's even a likely scenario. I don't think it is, but those are pretty much the two scenarios. Is we're going to pull back to retest the wedge, potentially also checking off the 420 landmark, and then form an uptrend to all-time highs. The other scenario is we just continue this uptrend to all-time highs right now. SPY it's within striking distance of all-time highs. As crazy as that may sound, this level here at 460, breaking above this range, is taking us to all-time highs. We're not far off. I mean, 460 all-time highs on S&P 500 is 480 and change, $20 off, and this is a very macro resistance here at 460. Breaking above this, we'd probably test on it and then go to all-time highs. Once we break for pretty much the point here of what I'm saying is once S&P 500 breaks 460, it's on its way to all-time highs. It's barring us actually pulling back and retesting this trend. That would be the ultra bullish scenario where we just continue up here. I don't know how likely that is. I'm still leaning that we're going to just finish out the symmetry. It's one more pullback to 420, also retesting the breakout of this wedge, and then from there bouncing to all-time highs. I'm just going to lean that for now, not playing anything on SPY currently until I see some kind of confirmation of the direction here. But this looks good. The point being here is S&P 500 is within striking distance of all-time highs. And more likely than not, we'll be seeing all-time highs within the next 2 months. I mentioned in my last video, previous all-time highs on SPY, January 2022, and it's once again lining up for all-time highs January 2024. This looks amazing. No complaints here whatsoever. Getting into AMC now, starting with the macro. So same as always, from IPO, you have your January and June equivalents here in the green and yellow. You play out the rest of the macro, and then the new macro started in January 2021. Again, your January, June equivalents in the green and yellow. The V shape on both sides, the macro break, gap down in the blue box on both sides. Before you get into the downtrend, the green, red, and blue. And then same thing over here, green, red, blue. And this trend, this downtrend, is the exact same trend. So starting from the climb out of the green is your first touch point. The cup in the red is your second touch point. You don't touch it at all in the blue on both sides. And then the next time you touch this trend is in this U move in the flat portion the top of the M, where you actually poke through the resistance, but then you fall back through it to your second and third bottom, which is where we are now, our second and third bottom. So this looks great. It's very clear. I mean, I don't know if everyone else can see this, but to me, this is crystal clear. Bull cycle, bear cycle, bull cycle, bear cycle. All the levels are the same. So the green levels are the same, the red levels are the same, the blue levels are the same, and then the flat portion takes you all the way down to the bottom where this red horizontal line is $0. It's right underneath you, and that is where you reset into a new macro. And the price target of that reset is the 3618 fib of $1,400. Now, I'm not saying it can't go past that. I'm just saying, technically speaking, $1,400 is the target. One other thing before I move on from this chart, the previous flat portion pretty much started January 2020 and it ended January 2021 when we squeezed into the new macro. The current cycle, the flat portion started January 2023 and is looking like it's going to be concluding January 2024. So pretty much just showing you're spending a year here in the flat portion, which I've theorized is really just the reset into the new macro, and that's what we're looking for anyway. So a reset into a new macro, a new bull cycle. Again, bull cycle, bear cycle, bull cycle, bear cycle. Bear cycle takes you all the way down to the bottom, pretty much right above zero. And we're looking for another bull cycle here. And the price target is the 3.618 fib of $1,400. Now, the next couple charts on AMC, what we're going to be doing is just zooming in a little bit at a time. So this is the full macro picture of AMC from IPO, bull cycle, bear, bull, bear. Now we're going to be zooming in on just the downtrend. So this downtrend here compared to this one on the right in the current cycle. So zooming in on that, here it is. So here would be that first green box coming back up here. Here would be the red, the U, rejecting that resistance once again. The blue takes you all the way down. You don't touch it at all, which brings you to your flat portion, which is right here. And then you're pretty much sideways until you get this fake out. Pokes through the wedge. And the same thing here, poking through the wedge before dropping down to your second and third bottom. Now, I want to make this abundantly clear for the 10th time now. This trend line is not the same as this trend line. It's the same, but it's not. And what I mean by that is, yes, the downtrend is the same. This downtrend is our macro halt line. Every time we've touched this trend, here, 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 even getting close to it, this was a halt, this was a halt. Every time we've touched this trend or even come close to it, we've halted. That was not the case in the previous macro back here. And the reason why is the amount of retail interest, the amount of volume, buying pressure sitting behind the stock, sitting behind this trend line. This volatility that we saw in July, this 100% after hours move that we got, which pretty much happened instantly. I think it was $37 to $77 in 1 minute after hours, just a straight line. That is the volatility that is behind this trend line. Now, here is another point of view just showing you this is our macro resistance of AMC, the descending wedge halting every time that we've come close to this. So halted in March, halted in August, halted in July. This was a halt here, this was a halt here, and rejected off of it, came down for our second and third bottom, and we're now approaching it again. The apex of this triangle being January 4th, 2024. And more likely than not, we will be meeting this trend line sooner than that. This is the ultra conservative when we meet this trend. That would be just going completely sideways here at 705, the previous all-time low here. More likely than not, we're going to be meeting this trend line sooner. So that's that. Now getting into the flat portion itself. So here is coming down to your first bottom, very choppy, gap up. Coming down to your first bottom, very choppy, gap up, your three peaks in the yellow, and then this U move, which actually breaks you out of the resistance on both sides. It's a fake out, and then you knife back through it to your second bottom, your tri-peak, and then your third bottom all-time low, which dips a little bit lower than the second bottom. And we have the exact same thing over here. Here's the poke through, the knife back into it, our second bottom, the tri-peak, and the third bottom, which wicks a little bit lower than the second. And we're now curling back up to the upside. Again, the apex of this triangle is January 4th. I fully expect to meet that sooner, potentially December 15th. That would be interesting. Quadrillion dollars in swaps expiring. I'm not the guy, to talk about that. I'm sure that there's other people that are much more educated on that subject than I am, but that is very interesting, a very interesting date. Considering how close we are to our macro resistance and where we are as far as the tracking goes on the macro, and then just zooming in to the downtrend, the micro, the halts we've seen, and the trend line of those halts is right here. We're meeting it within the next month. Friday is December. We're meeting this trend line late December, early January. We're here. We're moments away from seeing absolute fucking chaos in the market. That's that. Moving on from that, and this is getting into the final iteration now, so just the W with the tri-peak. So this is the fake out that you got. You can't really see it here, and over here you can't see it either. But the fake out and then the knife back down to your second bottom. This is the little cup on the side that I've spoken about multiple times that you see right here. Down to your second bottom, the tri-peak, and then your third bottom all-time low, dipping a little bit lower than the second. Now, yes, this tri-peak poked above the resistance as well. Again, the reason we're not going to do that is because this resistance is our macro halt line. So the next time that we meet this trend, we are going to straight line vertically. And, I've spoken about the other scenarios here. There's two scenarios. And the first one being we meet this trend, break it to the upside, and straight line to $1,400. And the other scenario is we halt off of it to the downside and go to zero. Again, that's very unlikely, especially with the direction AMC is heading fundamentally. Best earnings in ever, Q3. Things are looking up fundamentally for us. We're not going to fucking zero. And with that being said, we're going to the fucking moon. $1,400. So back to this. Really what I'm going to be looking for now, considering we checked off the second bottom, the tri-peak, and now the third bottom, I'm almost positive it's in, just judging from the rest of the market and GameStop. We'll get into that in a little bit. But assuming now that the all-time low landmark is in, macro-wise, tracking, assuming the third bottom, which right here, third bottom all-time low is in, we should now be uptrending into our squeeze. Another way to say that, this uptrend that we're in currently will be taking us to $1,400, to put it simply. But short term, what I'm going to be looking for is a reclaim. As you could see here previously, this is your January 2021 flat portion, the final iteration of it. So here's your second bottom, the tri-peak, and the third bottom actually dips a little bit lower. You then reclaim the all-time low, the previous all-time low level. You reclaim it, you retest, confirm, bounce off, gap up. That's your macro break. Straight line to your squeeze. So that's what I'm going to be looking for over here now, where this is the second bottom, the third dip a little bit lower. I'm looking to reclaim this level of 705. I don't know how high we're going to come up, potentially to $9 to this bottom resistance here. Touch that, and then possibly come back down to 705 to establish support, and then that will confirm, and from there we get our macro break. So that's going to be looking for short term. Things could also get, very vertical, very fast. Listen, so I'm giving this end December, early January, apex of this triangle as a conservative, point of interest. Really, this could happen at any moment. We could gap up past this trend line at any moment. And we're now in an uptrend curling up towards it. This looks amazing. This is legitimately, I could try my best to time this, but this could genuinely happen at any moment. So moving on from that into the indicators now. We'll start with the RSI, which is still oversold on the weekly. It's pretty much been oversold since July, sitting at 30 still on the weekly. Plenty of room to the upside here on the RSI. OBV on the weekly is finding a bounce. This week is green so far on pretty decent volume, so we're finding a bounce on the OBV. heading back up towards all-time high levels. Volume is already sitting close to all-time high levels. 3 red weeks in a row on descending volume and finding a very nice bounce now, a very nice double bottom, 2 cents higher actually on this weekly candle. This looks great, and macro-wise, I covered it already. It looks amazing. And I kind of like the weekly perspective looking at this, where this would be coming down to your second bottom, as you see right here. So your second bottom, your tri-peak, and your third bottom is a little bit lower. So it's the same thing right here. Second bottom, tri-peak, third bottom is a little bit lower. And from that third bottom, it was 15 days until your January peak. This could happen, in 15 days. It might take a little bit longer. It could happen quicker. Like I said, this could pop off at any moment. That's pretty much it. Like I said, when the third bottom all-time low is in, it's an uptrend into your squeeze. So if the bottom is in, 652, if that was the bottom, we will now be uptrending into our squeeze. Price target $1,400. All right, that's pretty much it for AMC. Now getting into GameStop. Holy fucking shit. What a candle, first of all. This is a weekly perspective on GameStop. What a fucking candle. Now, I've covered this macro a few times. I don't really cover it that often, but I'll cover it quickly again. Where AMC's macro begins, ends, whatever you want to call it, with an all-time low landmark. So here's IPO, all-time low landmark on GameStop. Into your squeeze, you get the V shape, your 1-2, and then the downtrend, very curved to the bottom. And then again, another reset, all-time low landmark, and then a V out of it into your squeeze. Your V shape, instant, you can't even see it, your 1-2, and then another curved downtrend. I mentioned it's possible the bottom's in for GameStop. It's possible it's not. It doesn't fucking matter. When it is in, though, I expect it to V out of this very quickly. And that is exactly what we've seen the past 2 days on GameStop. What a fucking move here. This looks amazing. If this was the bottom for GameStop, which I'm assuming it is because I believe the bottom's in for GameStop and AMC now, this uptrend on GameStop will now be taking it to all-time highs, the squeeze. And there's a few levels. Potentially this uptrend takes GameStop to roughly $24, this yellow line here, before you get one pullback that you see here. And likely this would be earnings. So potentially climbing up to earnings next week, and then earnings pulling back, and then getting the rest of this move into the squeeze. And this is going to play out very fast. So this looks great. GameStop looks amazing. Here's another perspective zooming in on the daily. This downtrend on GameStop, I believe the top of this downtrend is June 3rd. So pretty much 6 months ago, in this descending trend here, in this downtrend, nothing but red, very nice double bottom here, slightly higher, and a breakout, and then a gap up followed by more upside on ridiculous volume. I believe the daily average on GameStop volume-wise was 3.8 million. The volume today was 60 million. So that is a breakout and a gap up on very big volume. This looks fucking amazing. Again, I mentioned that behind this trend is GameStop's uptrend into its squeeze. It broke out, gapped up, V'd out of the all-time low landmark extremely quickly. Exactly what we were looking for. So that looks amazing. Now, that's pretty much it as far as, the usual stuff I show, AMC, GameStop, SPY. Really quickly, I want to touch on a few tickers because, like I said at the beginning of the video, we are on the verge of seeing macro breaks market-wide. And there's plenty of examples, and this is just a few. We'll start with this, ticker BKKT. Becky, good old Becky. This was the play I was talking about in my last video. I really didn't want to cover it on my channel, but here it is. And I'm not going to really go over all of the landmarks here. It's all marked, but another macro that ends with an all-time low landmark that you see right here. So there's your squeeze, you get the downtrend, the all-time low landmark into another squeeze, the downtrend, and then to the all-time low landmark. And a V out of this. The Discord, as well as myself, played this move. Big gains on this, 150% plus shares, 300% on cons. Pretty much sold the top here, looking for this pullback to 160, which also retested this very macro trend from IPO. So rejection here, rejection here. Here's your break above it and your squeeze. Come down, reject it here, reject it here, reject it here. All-time low landmark, V out of it, break the trend, and the retest on it. I believe this is now day 4 consecutively, or 5, closing over the 200 EMA. The only time this ticker has seen closes over the 200 EMA was right here while it was peaking at all-time highs. So this is an example. This play looks great. Another one, silver. I've covered this macro a few times. I did it live. I'm not going to really go over the whole thing, but this is a macro that dates back to the 1800s, fractals fractaling since the 1800s, before there was even an algorithm. No computerized trading here, no algorithm. Fractals are fractaling. The breakout, the retest, and then your 2 runs here, the downtrend, the breakout, the retest. There's your first run. I mentioned that this triangle here that we're seeing on silver, I mentioned this months ago, where this triangle, this is a monthly chart. When we break this, we are going to see a MOAS type move on silver. The equivalent is right here. Here's the triangle, here's the breakout of it, and a MOAS type move on silver. We're looking for the same thing over here. Currently, silver is sitting right on the resistance, looking for the breakout of this triangle, and then looking for a ridiculous move to the upside on silver. I haven't charted gold, but I'm pretty sure it would apply to gold as well. Moving on from that, ticker BYON, Beyond, another another ticker that is very levels based. The macro is very levels based. Everything's marked off here. Another ticker that ends with an all-time low before getting into the bull cycle. There's the squeeze, downtrend, all-time low landmark, V out of it into another squeeze, downtrend, all-time low landmark, Ving out of it currently. This looks great. That's BYON. This is Novavax, a vaccine company. This thing, it doesn't look like much, but this has pretty much been trading range bound $5 to $10 here for a year, a full year here, establishing support. Another very levels-based macro, establishing support, currently sitting at $5. Upside targets, $81, $170, and $300. Very repetitive levels-based macro, just like BYON. Another one, I haven't really charted this, but this is Safety Shot, ticker SHOT. Breaking a downtrend, another squeeze, downtrend, all-time low landmark. I believe the all-time low here was 26 cents. Ving out of it and already pushing all-time highs here, 26 cents to roughly $8. Cooling off now, but potentially some more upside here, potentially new highs. The point here being is that we are in a fucking bull market. The market is bullish as absolute fuck. Everything is about to fucking level up. I'm not even talking about crypto. Altcoins have been going retarded. Bitcoin, Ethereum climbing. I'm not going to get into their macros and what we're looking for that. But, cryptos look great. Market wide, I just went over different sectors of the market. Everything looks amazing. SPY, potentially one more pullback and then new all-time highs. And that, I've covered everything with AMC. The macro, the flat portion, 2020 to 2021, 2023 to now 2024, sitting right above zero here. Bull cycle, bear cycle, pretty much down to the bottom. Bull cycle, bear cycle, pretty much down to the bottom. Flat portion playing out. One full year of flat portion coming to an end January 2024, looking for a squeeze. GameStop, that is a beautiful fucking candle, a beautiful breakout of a 6-month long downtrend here. If this is the all-time low landmark for GameStop, the next thing that we see here is an uptrend into the squeeze. And like I said, this squeeze that we're about to see is going to play out faster than what we saw in January 2021. And that will be due to the volume. Everything looks fucking amazing. I'm not setting any expectations for AMC on a daily basis. Like I said in my last video, we're going to be chopping here sideways, getting closer and closer to this macro resistance, macro halt line every single day. When we do get to this line and we break this to the upside, we are going to the fucking moon. No other way to say it. That's pretty much it for the video. More than likely, I'm not going to make a video tomorrow unless something crazy happens. But I will be making a weekly recap video either Friday or Saturday. So with that being said, enjoy the rest of your night. Let's fucking go. Bullish as fuck. I'll catch you guys in the next one.